Good morning. How are you? Just a couple quick thoughts for today. This probably won't be long. But I was led to Psalm 51, which is important and hard, and it's a psalm that really asks for forgiveness and honesty, to admit to God that we are needy of everything from Him, that we on our own are lost. And so that's where you get some of the verses that create in me a clean heart, O God, and put a new spirit in me, where David admits that have mercy on me, O God, because of your unfailing love. Cleanse me from my sin and wash away my guilt. It's a great psalm, along with Psalm 32, which was also in my scheduled reading, just to empty ourselves of our own pride or cover-ups or things that we're just not being honest with God. I just pray for humility and honest heart that God can give me to not run away from sin, because somehow we think that honesty and sin is something we have to be afraid of, when we don't want to sin and when we can fear the consequences of sin. But we certainly don't have to be afraid of anything that we've done or that has happened in our lives. So the main thing that kind of caught my attention is in Mark. So I've been reading in Mark and chapter 12. And these stupid people, these Pharisees, always trying to trap Jesus into some of their snares by asking him questions, pretending that they actually want to know the answers. But Jesus saw through all of that hypocrisy. There was a phrase about hypocrisy. Hypocrites will be self-condemned. I thought that was an interesting line too, that they think they're hiding, but in the long run, God already knows their hearts, and they know their hearts, and they're going to bring, the truth will come to light. And Jesus knew already from their question that they came to him, do we really have to give our taxes to the government, just to trap them? But the part I wanted to look at that caught my attention was from verse 28. And it's interesting because maybe not all the teachers of the law were out to get Jesus, but one of them did have an honest question, I think, for Jesus. And he says, of all the commandments, which is the most important? And it doesn't say he asked that for any, again, nefarious or wrong reason. He just asks him. And really, we know that all the commandments are equal importance, really, in the long run. And so what Jesus really does is he puts them all together in one. The most important one, answered Jesus, is this: Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. Love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind, and with all your strength. The second is this: love your neighbor as yourself. There is no commandment greater than these. And so when Jesus says, I think God is one, you just can't divide them. Maybe he's also saying sort of about all the commandments, they come together in really one word, which is to love. And when I read that today, I thought, this man is saying, yep, you are right. To love, that's the answer. That's not a simple answer. Real love. And then my devotion for today, if you look it up from Bible Gateway Devotions, June 11th, you will find them saying love again. We love because he first loved us. So I think of love is impossible for sinful human beings. Real love It's not come from us. And this devotion just confirmed that idea. Like, it could sound really simple, like, yeah, love. But it isn't. It doesn't. The devotion said love is exotic. It's like an exotic flower. It's not homegrown, naturally a wildflower in our hearts. Unfortunately, and that's what grieves, I think, Christians in this world, is it isn't our first default anymore. After Adam and Eve sinned, now we are not drawn initially to loving unselfishly. And so it says, this love has to come from God. And so when Jesus was telling him to love, he's really not leading him to himself, which is what Pharisees a lot of times were, is this self-righteous. Instead, Jesus says, I thought this was an interesting line in verse 34, you are not far from the kingdom of God. He doesn't say that is the kingdom of God, necessarily you loving, because without Jesus and without Jesus on the cross, we're missing any possibility to do that. So what Jesus is still doing by saying love is he's saying you need to come to me. In your desire to love and in your incompleteness to love and inabilities to really love, you're going to be like David saying, like in Psalm 32, I just kept a sin on me and I wasted away. I needed a deliverer. And Jesus is saying, when I tell you to love, what I'm really telling you to do is look outside yourself for that power and for true love and look to Jesus. Because that's when the kingdom of God really comes, is when God's Spirit and Jesus' love comes to our hearts. And so, there's something more, with the thing with the sacrifices. So, when the teacher was told to love God as one, love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind, with all your strength, the man says, that's right. And then to love your neighbor as yourself, that was the second one that Jesus said. But then he said it is more important than burnt offerings and sacrifices. And that just dawned on me that is in Psalm 51. More important to love than burnt offering. We can give, we can try to do, and this man is even confirming, like, I can still give every sacrifice and still feel not accepted, because it's not the stuff we do, but it's the love of God that brings real acceptance. So that makes me think of the last verse of Psalm 51. Then there will be righteous sacrifices when God has pleasure with us. 17, I guess before that, the sacrifices of God are a broken spirit, a broken and contrite heart, O God, you will not despise. That's the real sacrifice he wants in us, is to start by admitting, I can't even love. I'm so pathetic, God, that true love in my heart can't even come from me. Forgive me for not being able to do the most important thing on my own. But also it makes me cling to you to say, but I know in you all things are possible. So if you're telling me to love, first of all, you're telling me to take your love, and then my cup can overflow into love for others, however that might look, and to love for you, God. So I love those kind of steps and how that all went together this morning. First, recognize your dependence on God to love. Don't fool yourself into thinking that love can truly just come from you. The Bible, again, in my verse, it's in 1 John, I believe, that we love because he first loved us. And then to recognize that all the love we do need will come from him, that we'll need to depend on him, like it said, for heavenly nourishment, for this exotic plant that of love that is so beautiful that we want. We also know our own soul can't nourish that plant. It needs heavenly bread. It needs heavenly water. It needs to keep coming back to that, to living water, to the true water that God gives us. Thank you for tuning in. Have a great day.